Well, joining us now via Skype with more on Colombia's presidential election is Joseph Humire. He's the executive director of the Center for Secure Free Society, a nonpartisan global research and educational center based here in Washington. Colombia will see its first elections completely in peace. How significant is that?
Well, first, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be on. It's very significant. These are probably one of the most important elections in the year of elections in Latin America, probably one of the most important elections in the region, not just because of the fact that they're the first time the elections are in peace, but also because of the current political kind of the climate in Colombia right now is really, it can go either direction. It can go one towards the direction that is in favor of what, the incumbent president, Juan Manuel Santos, which has been leading it towards kind of a closer alliance with the FARC, which, to some degree spells some level of instability in other parts of the region, or it can go in the direction that it has been going in, which is the direction of growth and prosperity, which it started under the Álvaro Uribe presidency, has continued under the Juan Manuel Santos presidency. Economic growth has continued, and so has peace and prosperity.
But will that translate at the polls on Sunday? Do you think there will be a large turnout?
It's a good question. I think in some degree the whole peace agreement has somewhat hurt Santos's campaign, because he staked quite a big portion of his reelection on the success of the negotiations with the FARC. Now, when the negotiations started in September 2012, we were talking essentially about months of negotiations. No one expected it to be years. Now we're about close to 2 years later, and there's a level of attrition and kind of just a tired a sense amongst the Colombian people that they don't really want to keep hearing about the negotiations. A Gallup poll recently showed that only about 4% of the people surveyed thought the negotiations were a top priority for the incoming president. And to some degree, I think that might have hurt Santos, putting himself, attaching his campaign that close to the negotiations. On another end, the other thing that I think might be threatening the whole Santos campaign is also the allegations of scandals. That hurts his campaign. It also hurts his opposition, Aseih Zuluaga, but that might have helped some of the other candidates to make a much more divided political scenario for this election tomorrow.
So let's talk about the scandals. It's been called some of the dirtiest campaign tactics Colombia has seen in years. Do you think that has overshadowed the bigger issues at hand?
Unfortunately, to some degree, I think it has. Unfortunately, this brings out the dirty side of politics, the part of politics that most Colombian voters don't want to hear about, don't want to see. But unfortunately, it's what the media tends to gravitate towards. So you have scandals about hackers, you have scandals about agreements with drug traffickers, things. I don't think anybody really is going to remember all the details of the scandals, but what they're going to remember is that Colombian politics is still corrupt, Colombian politics is still dirty. And like I said, I think that's actually going to hurt the two probably frontrunners, which is Juan Manuel Santos, the incumbent and the current president of Colombia, and Aseih Zuluaga, the candidate from the Democratic Alliance, which is Álvaro Uribe's party right now, the new party. But the other candidates, I think, may benefit, particularly the women. The women, Clara López Obregón, who's a Harvard-trained economist, and Marta Lucía Ramírez, who's a former Minister of Defense. They have been showing a slow and steady rise in the recent polls, hitting about double digits as of the last poll in just a few weeks ago. And I think they may end up coming benefit. It may surprise some folks come tomorrow.
So, Joseph, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Your prediction on who will win this election?
Well, my prediction, I think no one's going to win tomorrow. I think we're going to head off into a runoff election, which is important to note that the runoff is going to be in about 3 weeks. It's going to be on June 15th. So whoever comes up pretty high here, I think it has a good sign to be able to win. My thinking is it's going to stay between Santos and Zuluaga. I can't really say who would probably. I probably would hope that Zuluaga would edge ahead a little bit, because his momentum has kind of climaxed in the last month, which is really at the peak period at the right time. But I actually think the women are actually going to surprise us as well. I think Obregón, Clara López Obregón and Marta Lucía Ramírez will perform very well tomorrow at the ballots.
All righty. We shall see. Thank you so much, Joseph Humire.